bail on life, then get through it and learn from it.
Well, I am sympathetic, Nick, and I know that you are too. You know, I know what you were just saying sounds harsh, but it's reality. But I also know that we're very sympathetic, and you're a caring, kind person yourself, Nick, and I get that. And I don't mean to make you feel bad and too soft and squishy there, Nick, but you know.
I'm gushing all over the floor here, Joseph.
But look, I you know, in the last segment we were talking about people who are suffering from addiction. And again, you know, what is the answer that the do-gooders in our society, the professional, highly educated members of the alleged caring professions, what is their solution to addiction? Their solution to addiction is obviously the treatment side of it. Great. But what's really rankling them that we have to protest, we must change the law? Oh, the stigma of having a criminal offense or a criminal charge because you happen to be in possession of dangerous drugs and using dangerous drugs. The stigma, as if the stigma of this is what's driving the addiction. And what I don't hear from them, and this is shocking when you think about it, Nick, what we never hear from them is any one of them standing at the back of the room when David Suzuki's giving one of his press conferences talking about the inevitability of the earth burning up, maybe putting their hand up and saying, hey, Dr. Suzuki, do you have any idea what kind of mental anguish, what kind of torture you're putting our youth through by using alarmist language like that? And has anybody anybody asked the important question, how much is this kind of extreme language, false extreme language, by the way, let's not forget that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the other side of the coin too, yeah.
How much of that is contributing to the hopelessness and the despair that feeds the opioid addiction epidemic, and that ultimately, I fear, is going to contribute to a sharp rise in youth suicide. And everybody wants to look at bullying. Okay, I have a kind of bullying. I think David Suzuki's a bully. I think that Justin Trudeau's a bully. I think that Joe Biden is a bully. When they go on the air and they talk about climate change is an existential threat. If your parents don't stop this, you are going to die soon. And you'll probably suffer horribly while you're in the process of dying.
Yeah,
is that not bullying?
It's also child abuse. I mean, let's face it, if you make a child, and by child I mean anybody up to 18, so afraid of the future that they consider taking their lives as the only way out, then that's child abuse. And I think you can make a good case for that, because this is, first of all, it's all based on a lie. And I've said that from the very beginning. The idea that somehow we're so negatively affecting the climate that, the world's going to end. That's just a flat-out lie. And I really, really pine for the day when somebody in a position of authority stands up and gently lifts Mr. Suzuki off the floor by his lapels and say, you need to stop lying to people. You need to stop scaring the crap out of people, and you need to stop robbing them of their hope for the future. And shake him hard and then put him back down. Because you got to get to that point. You've got to, how else do you defeat this? You need to silence, and I don't mean in any kind of legalistic or terrible way, but you have to shout down these kinds of arguments with logic, reason, common sense, and a steady hand, because there's no other way to do it.
Well, at one point in time, historically, people like this would have been tarred and feathered and run out of town
on a rail.
Because that's what they deserve.
Yeah,
Al
you know
Gore?
what? Yeah, he'd be the first one to go. All you got to do, and for a guy like that, all you got to do is say, Mr. Gore, out of all the things you've predicted in the last 30 years, how many of them have come true?
Well, like I always say, I've been hearing about the sea level rises, cataclysmic sea level rises now for 30-some-odd years, Nick.
Well, the last time that happened, it was with a guy called Noah, and that was a long time ago.
Yeah, well, if you're a believer, one thing that you can rest assured of, okay, if you're a Bible believer, okay, truly,
we're not going to drown.
And you can rest assured you're not going to die from sea level rising.
That's right.
Okay.
Oh man,
but
that's one of the great stories in the Bible. That one.
But seriously, okay, seriously, theology and Bible studies notwithstanding,
right.
30 years ago I was hearing about the cataclysmic rise in sea levels, and I heard Joe Biden saying at the last presidential debate something or other about the existential threat that we only had 10 or 11, maybe I think it was 11 years left. And I'm thinking, okay, 30 years, 11 years, that makes 40 years. We're 3/4 of the way through the cycle. Gosh, those sea levels are going to have to start rising pretty soon if we're going to make it
fast.
Because we're running out of time for those sea levels to rise 160 meters. Okay. I mean,
yeah, ain't that the truth?
It is. Now, of course, climate change is real. The climate changes. Historically, right. it always has changed. That's part of the nature of the Earth, irrespective of human activity. Okay, are we giving it a little shove along or not? I doubt it. But even if we are, here's the good news. Okay, the good news is we're not causing it, and that's the bad news too.
Yeah.
So, stop trying to play God. Stop trying to change stop the climate from changing. And if you're really worried about it, okay, take measures to strengthen, your infrastructure, etc. And here's the reality is that, as I think I said right early on in this particular show, Nick, is that human beings are great at adaptation. As somebody far wiser than me, Patrick Moore, one of the former founders of Greenpeace, who now has been going around touring saying, guys, don't be really afraid of climate change. It's not that big a deal. Anyway, I was on a conference call with him recently and some other people, and as Dr. Moore pointed out, here's an example of human capacity for adaptation. All of the Canadian snowbirds that head down south to Florida in the wintertime are very good at adapting to climate change. And when you think about the sharp change in climate between Canada in the winter and Florida in the summer, that's pretty significant. I think that's one of the great observations. It's not very scientific, but there it is.
Now here's one more quick example of the ingenuity of people.
We got to make it quick.
Okay, people are buying or bringing cars up from Florida, snowbirds, and they're parking them in fields in New York State, taking a helicopter ride across the border, landing next to the car, getting in the car, and driving down to Florida.
Oh dear!
To get around the prohibition of traveling across the border.
You can fly. It's easy to fly. You could fly to the United States. It's driving for some reason that they're all up in arms about it.
Okay, we're out of time, but that's something that you want to talk about. Shake your head. What is the difference?
I don't know, Nick, but you're right. We're running out of time. We can get into that maybe next week. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's been quite a show. And if you're listening to it live, tell your friends they can get it on podcast on pretty much any of your favorite podcast networks. If you're listening to the podcast, tell your friends and neighbors about it. Share it. Share it. Where else are you going to hear truth with a tongue-in-cheek?
Absolutely.
Let me know. Truth presented humorously. Okay, we don't take ourselves too seriously.
No, we take what we do seriously, but we don't take ourselves very seriously.
So look, even if you listen to the show live tonight, go online tomorrow, check it out, share it on Facebook, share it on Twitter, and tell your friends and neighbors about us. And I think that's all I have.
Have a look at the chat room. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to bow us out of here, Joseph, by saying, Ubiqueritas et amor Deus CBS. Good evening. God bless. Don't let anything disturb your peace, and may you have a fair wind and a following sea.